Hey there, fellow taxpayers. Ever wonder where mega corporations and billionaires stash their cash to avoid? Welcome to the wild world of tax havens. Picture this: palm trees, turquoise waters, and bank accounts so secretive they make a Swiss vault look like a fishbowl. Now, not all tax havens are created equal. We've got two main flavors: conduits and sinks. Think of conduits like the Netherlands or Singapore as financial straw cities. Money flows through them faster than a tourist downing tequila shots, barely leaving a trace. It's all about quick transfers with minimal tax liability. Sinks, on the other hand, are more like financial black holes. Places like Luxembourg or those idyllic Caribbean islands. They're where the money goes to disappear, legally speaking at least. We're talking about shell companies and obscure trusts, all designed to make ownership as murky as a swamp. But hold on, because this ain't your grandma's offshore banking anymore. Things are about to get messy. Let's talk about conduits. Those financial middlemen who play a mean game of hot potato with your tax dollars. We're looking at you, Netherlands and Singapore. Don't let the windmills and fancy gardens fool you. These countries are masters of moving money around with minimal fuss and even fewer taxes. Here's the deal. A corporation sets up shop in a conduit country, taking advantage of its super low tax rates and business-friendly regulations. Then, they funnel their profits through this shell company, making it seem like the money was earned there, not in the country where they actually... it's like ordering takeout and having it delivered to your neighbor's house so you can pretend you cooked. And the best part for them, not you? These conduit countries often have double taxation treaties with other nations, meaning companies can avoid paying taxes twice on the same income. It's a win-win for corporations and a lose-lose for everyone else. But hey, at least the money's moving, right? Well, hold your horses, because sinks take things to a whole new level of financial secrecy. Now we're entering the murky depths of tax havens, the sinks. We're talking about places like Luxembourg, those charming Caribbean islands, and other sunny spots with lax regulations and even laxer morals. These aren't just pit stops for your money, they're the final destination, where fortunes go to vanish into a legal and financial Bermuda Triangle. Think of it this way. Conduits are like the getaway car, but sinks are the secret underground bunker where the loot is stashed. We're talking about shell companies, trusts and foundations, all designed to obscure the true owners of the assets. It's like the financial equivalent of wearing a Groucho Marx disguise, but with higher stakes and a lot more zeros involved. And here's the kicker. Once the money disappears into this labyrinth of legal entities, it's nearly impossible to trace. It's like trying to find a specific grain of sand on a beach. Good luck with that, taxman, but don't worry, the party's just getting started. Because when organizations like the OECD and the EU catch wind of this financial shenanigans, things get really interesting. Remember those kids in school who always tried to bend the rules? Well, tax havens are like the financial equivalent of those kids, except instead of sneaking extra cookies at lunch, they're dodging billions, maybe trillions in taxes. And guess who's not happy about it? That's right, the grown-ups, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, and the European Union, EU. The OECD, a bunch of mostly wealthy countries, is all about promoting fair and transparent tax practices. They've been trying to crack down on tax havens for years, issuing reports, setting guidelines, and generally being a thorn in the side of financial secrecy. Think of them as the hall monitor of the global economy, except with more power and fewer pimples. The EU, meanwhile, is like the strict headmaster, particularly when it comes to its own member states. They've got their own blacklist of tax havens and aren't afraid to use it to shame countries into cleaning up their act. They've even gone after some of their own, like Luxembourg and Ireland, for their cosy relationships with multinational corporations. But the problem is, cracking down on tax havens is like playing whack-a-mole. You shut down one loophole, and another one pops up somewhere else. It's a never-ending game of cat and mouse, with billions of dollars hanging in the balance. And while the OECD and EU are busy playing whack-a-mole back home, things are starting to fall apart. Section 5. havoc in the homeland, inequality, crime, and a system on shaky ground. Remember those billions, maybe trillions of dollars that are being stashed away in tax havens? Yeah, that money isn't just disappearing into thin air. It's being siphoned away from essential public services, leaving ordinary folks high and dry. We're talking about schools, healthcare, infrastructure, the stuff that keeps a society from crumbling like a stale cookie. Here's the deal. When the ultra-wealthy and corporations dodge taxes, it creates a massive funding gap. Governments have to either cut back on essential services or raise taxes on everyone else to make up the difference. Spoiler alert, they usually choose the latter because taxing the poor is easier than going after powerful billionaires. It's the reverse Robin Hood effect in action. But wait, there's more. This massive wealth disparity doesn't just hurt our wallets, it undermines trust in the whole system. When people see the super rich playing by a different set of rules, it breeds resentment, cynicism, and a whole lot of anger. And that, my friends, is a recipe for disaster. But hey, at least tax havens are just about hiding money, right? Wrong. Things are about to get even shadier. Section 6. The dark side, money laundering and worse. Hold on to your hats, folks, because we're about to delve into the dark underbelly of tax havens. The world of money laundering, illegal tax evasion, and even more nefarious activities. Forget about shady accounting practices. We're talking about stuff that would make even a mob boss blush. Here's the thing. When you create a system where money can flow freely and anonymously, it's like rolling out the red carpet for criminals. Drug traffickers, arms dealers, corrupt officials, you name it, they're all lining up to launder their dirty cash through these financial secrecy jurisdictions. And it's not just about hiding ill-gotten gains. Tax havens have also been linked to terrorist financing, human trafficking, and other heinous crimes. Remember that whole follow the money thing? Yeah, well, good luck doing that when it disappears into a black hole of shell companies and numbered accounts. So, while those palm trees and white sandy beaches might look inviting, always remember there's a dark side to this paradise, and it's about as pretty as a dumpster fire. But wait, before you judge too harshly, we need to talk about the little guy. Section 7. David versus Goliath. Small islands, big problems. Now, before you grab your pitchforks and torches and set sail for the Cayman Islands, let's take a step back and consider the little guy. Many tax havens are in fact small island nations with limited resources and even fewer economic options. For them, offering financial secrecy is a way to survive, to attract foreign investment, and to keep their heads above water, sometimes literally. Imagine you're a tiny island nation with no natural resources, a shrinking tourism industry, and a population desperate for jobs. Along comes this whole offshore finance thing, offering a way to generate revenue and create employment opportunities. What do? It's a classic David versus Goliath situation, with these small nations caught in the crosshairs of a global economic system that often seems rigged against them. And here's another thing to consider: national sovereignty. Countries have the right to set their own tax laws, even if those laws seem a tad, shall we say, favourable to wealthy individuals and corporations. It's a complex issue with no easy answers. So, what's the solution? Well, that's where things get even trickier. Section 8. Don't tread on my taxes, the sovereignty issue. Now, before we go all tax havens are the root of all evil, we need to address a touchy subject: national sovereignty. Countries, big or small, get prickly when outsiders start telling them how to run their own affairs, especially when it comes to money. Imagine someone barging into your house and demanding you rearrange your furniture because think it looks messy. That's kind of what it feels like for some countries when international organizations criticize their tax laws. It's their country, their rules, right? This whole sovereignty thing is a major roadblock in the fight against tax havens. You can't exactly invade a country for having low taxes, no matter how tempting it might seem. It requires a delicate balancing act of diplomacy, pressure, and maybe a little bit of carrot and stick negotiation. So, how do we address the needs of struggling nations while also tackling the global problem of tax avoidance? Well, buckle up because we're heading into the final stretch. Section 9. A call for help but not for tax dodging, finding a better way. We've journeyed through the murky world of tax havens, from conduit pipelines to shadowy sinkholes, exposing the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So what's the takeaway? It's a complex issue with no easy solutions, but one thing's for sure. We need a better way forward, one that benefits everyone, not just the wealthy few. We need to find ways to support developing countries without resorting to a race to the bottom on taxes. We need to close loopholes, increase transparency, and make sure everyone pays their fair share. And most importantly, we need to hold those in power accountable for creating a system that allows such blatant financial inequality to flourish. It's time to ditch the ME first mentality and embrace a more equitable and sustainable approach. After all, we're all in this together, whether we're sipping cocktails on a private island or struggling to make ends meet in a world increasingly designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. So let's raise a glass, not a shell company, to a future where taxes are fair, transparency reigns supreme, and the only ones hiding in the shadows are those with something to hide. Cheers to that.